Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Six Masters day number 5. I'm Guz, and joining me for all of tonight's action is Raven. Now, you've had a pretty busy last couple of weeks. Maybe take us through a highlight, because there's been a lot in this tournament so far, hasn't there?
Oh man, Six Masters has not failed on delivering some really exciting siege, and I still think the standout highlight for me has got to be Derpe's stim clutch play for Sinister last week that ended up winning them that map in overtime at 8-7. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely find the VOD, look at the highlights on the Twitter, because it's really cool.
What a great way to plug the Twitter. If you want to get involved in the conversation, at Rainbow6ANZ on all of your favorite social media platforms. And of course, if you jump onto Twitter, you can have your say in the community poll. Now, Raven, we're jumping into tonight. We've got some, again, more interesting matches. I think it's a term that we've been using over and over again, but once again, repeating words, these matchups looking close, potentially a bit scrappy, but it's going to make for some good siege.
Absolutely, and I think you saw that with our Snowball Esports analyst predictions. It was really divided amongst a lot of the games. There was never really a consensus of who's going to be clear favorites coming into these matches. I think that's the best thing that Six Masters has delivered so far, is nothing seems certain.
Well, here is where we stand heading into tonight. We have wildcard Okami, who is formerly TBD. We'll get into that later. Elevate and Sinister in those top 4 positions, Raven. Is this sort of what we expected in these stages of the league so far?
Well, it is essentially the top 4 seed teams that have now settled into those positions. A little out of order, but yeah, in terms of who is in that top 4, I think that is what you would have expected coming in. That being said, it doesn't mean it's not heavily contested. For example, LFO and Sinister really could be duking it out for that 4th spot. I think a lot of people are expecting wildcard Okami and Elevate to be really in those top 3 positions, but that still also isn't necessarily certain.
And I think that creates a really interesting dynamic. You have the top teams trying to scrap out for that first position and that first seeding. And then again, we have almost the bottom 5 teams really scrapping out for that 4th position. Of course, only the top 4 go into those playoffs. So all of these teams at the moment still having plenty to play for. And again, it's just going to raise the intensity once again onto another level.
It really is. And these top teams here aren't necessarily comfortable. I mean, wildcard, they look like they might be there, right? With 4 wins, no losses. But they've had some really tough games. I mean, Ferox last week pushed them to overtime on Consulate, and then the other map was 7-5. So it's not like they were outstanding stomp kind of style wins. In fact, they're just scraping through.
Well, of course, in the Six Masters, we have 2 best of 2s for every playday. Let's have a look at who's playing this evening. First up, it will be Pittsburgh taking on Kanga, scrap between 7th and 8th. And then later in the night, we will have Okami, Olafo, against Team Ferox. And again, Okami is previously TBD. So if that name looks unfamiliar, that's why.
Yeah, and 2 very exciting lineups. As you said, Pittsburgh Knights and Kanga. It's a battle at the bottom for them tonight. So that will start to either create some big separation between those 2 positions or keep things in touch. But I'm really excited about the Okami-Ferox match later in the night. Just like I said, Ferox really showed up last week against Wildcard, and Okami are going from strength to strength at the moment, but they're still having some shaky results.
Yeah, I think it's really going to be a night almost of 2 halves. I think the first matchup is going to be pretty close, but quite scrappy, whereas the second one might be a little bit more refined. But in saying that, as that pops into my mind, both Okami and Ferox, they're teams that are pretty renowned for having sort of that fluid play style, bringing that aggression to the board. So I think tonight's just going to be crazy in general, and it should make for some really good siege.
Yeah, I have to agree. One thing that's been really interesting this season, which I'm sure we're going to talk about a lot later, is going to be Okami's playstyle. But I'm going to save that for later because there's some things that I've noticed.
All right, well, we'll discuss that matchup later. Let's bring up the matchup for tonight. Pittsburgh Knights is the first roster we'll delve into. Keep in mind, they aren't playing 6 players tonight. We've just added 1 additional player to this roster. It will be Picnic. Raven, talk us through maybe what he brings to the team and sort of how they're shaping up so far.
Yeah, so Picnic is their coach, so he's providing support staff services to these guys. I don't personally know exactly what he brings, whether it's the coach analyst role or whether he just fulfills more of a coach or more of an analyst. Either way, he is their support staff. And then on top of that, this roster has stayed pretty consistent. The big difference that some people might still be catching up on is that Stigs has joined Fnatic. So Arlo has jumped in, but he's been playing really well. I think that's a really important point. It's not like he's just this new player to the roster. He's played with them in the past, and he's had some pretty good performances so far in Six Masters.
Well, the Pittsburgh Knights are trying to regain some form, and so is Kanga. Let's have a look at their roster and who they're bringing for tonight's match. Again, Yoshi will be added to that lineup. Raven, talk us through what he brings to the team and sort of maybe discuss a little bit some of the struggles that Kanga might be going through at the moment because they haven't won a map yet.
Yeah, Yoshi being their coach, we've interviewed him previously in Pro League Season 11, provided some really good insight into their team, so he seems pretty in touch with a lot of the things that he does as a sports staff, but in terms of what this team is struggling with, the outstanding thing for me just feels like they have a really shallow map pool. It's something I brought up with Spruce in the interview, and he agreed that they just don't really know what their map pool is because they're struggling to get strong results or victories on these maps. So it's not giving them a very good gauge on where they're heading. And I think that's their biggest struggle that they've just not got on top of.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting you mentioned that because of the Six Masters best of two format that has shaken up the map veto. You can basically only insta-ban one map. So effectively, you need at least a 6-map pool. Whereas previously, you might have been able to get away with 4 or 5. Now, you need to basically be on top of almost every map. And that makes it really challenging for some of these teams who, like Kanga, have experienced those roster changes, are already on the back foot. And that's sort of potentially set them back just a little bit more.
Yeah, and the thing about that veto system is it means that you really should be expected to be winning your pick because you've got the pick of 6 maps there, or 5 maps essentially, and you've got to be backing yourself on that. So if you're losing your map pick, then it's going to be much more of a struggle on your opponent's map pick because in theory, that should be their strongest map out of what's left.
While the map veto is ready and waiting, let's see what the teams have banned first and see where we will not be heading. Consulate from the Knights and Border from Kanga, so those 2 maps will not be played in this series. Is that what we expected?
Definitely Border. Pittsburgh Knights have shown that they're quite good on Border in the past. They've actually taken down Okami in Pro League Season 11 on Border, and that was quite the smacking. So I think that's a pretty big statement for why Border is a good ban for them. Consulate, I think, in terms of Pittsburgh Knights, probably is a little tricky for them to decide what to ban, to be honest, because Kanga don't have that forthcoming strong map that you would be like, yep, let's just ban that, and then we're Gucci. So we'll see what they play for. I'm kind of feeling like we might see some Clubhouse because both these teams have played it a bit in the past.
All right, well, let's find out. Each team gets 1 pick. Let's see what they have decided to go with. Kafe will be Pittsburgh, and there you go, Clubhouse for Kanga. So you're on the ball to start things off.
Yeah, I mean, with that Clubhouse pick, they've played it a lot, but like I said, they've had mixed results. It's not like it's a strong map for them, but it's clearly one that they've played a lot of. So hopefully with that, it means that they've got something there to work from. It's a good base to start with. So I'm curious to see how they pick that up. And Pittsburgh Knights maybe just capitalizing on some weaknesses that Kanga has shown on Kafe, which they've played quite a lot of so far in 6 Masters. In fact, both weeks back-to-back, they've played Kafe, losing it 6-8 to Okami in the first week, and then 3-7 to Elevate last week. So I think that's a lot that Pittsburgh can really build on to counter Kanga on that map.
Yeah, and I think it's really tricky to judge these teams on their form because they haven't looked really at their best and their results have sort of reflected that. So I think there is still a big question mark going into this game because Pittsburgh, I think a lot of people expected them to probably be pushing for the top 4. So to find them now in 7th, probably a little bit unexpected. And then of course you've got Kanga who maybe weren't expected to go for the top 4, but to be dead last without a map, that's got to be pretty harsh. So they're really, really looking to try and kickstart something in this season because if they lose from here, it's a rough season. It's not going to be good for them.
Yeah. I really think with Kanga, it's just a bit of a timing issue because they got absolutely routed in terms of their roster, losing Worthy and Pat to Wildcard and Elevate. It's really changed things a lot for them. 2 really strong players, and Pat had quite the leadership role in their team. That's not easy to fulfill. So they had to finish Season 11 of Pro League, and now they've had to start 6 Masters within 4 weeks of that finishing. That's not a very long time to be able to turn that around with 2 such key players. So in terms of that, 6 Masters is really about just trying to build on something, create that foundation. So as they progress through 2020, they've got more of a chance to get back into it.
All right, well, you guys at home had your opportunity to say who you thought will win this series. Let's bring up that poll result and see what the community expects.
Ooh.
Pittsburgh just edging out K. This is one of, if not the closest poll result I think we've had this season. Even some strong support for the draw. So, look, expect this one to be close. And I am probably sitting in the boat that this is pretty accurate. Maybe the Pittsburgh just.
Yeah, look, it is tough to call. Kanga have had some close maps. I mean, I pointed out that 6-8 on Kafe against Okami. That's a pretty big deal. Okami have looked pretty good on Kafe previously, and of course they're a top team. And Kanga, with their struggles to pull out a 6-8, that's got to say something, right? So there's definitely a chance they could take a map on Pittsburgh Knights, but then again, they've also showed some pretty lackluster performances. So it really just depends what Kanga we see show up, and of course what Pittsburgh Knights show up, because they've shown some really strong performances. And if we see that, well, then maybe Kanga don't have much of a chance.
And I just saw on the ticker there, we have the kill leaders for each team. Who needs to step up here for each team? Because we know that each roster has their stars. Who can we expect to step up here and bring their team over the line?
Yeah, I think in terms of Kanga, it's got to be a collective, right? We've seen Leb stepping up probably the most consistently for them so far in Six Masters, but Campo has also had some great games, and then Spruce has had patches of impact. So I think if they can all just collectively step up, they're going to have a great shot. And on Knights, hard to say. Strider seems to be the one to really look out for Knights. He's kind of their driving force.
All right, well, we're in the map. The ban phase has begun. Maverick taken off the board first there by Kanga. What sort of bans can we expect, Raven, for the rest of this map?
Yeah, Kafe it's an interesting one with bans. Usually you see either the Maverick or Thatcher are the two really common bans on Kafe. And then, yeah, this Ying seems to be really sticking at the moment. Teams not wanting to deal with it. So that's the Ying off the board. And on terms of defense, Mirror Echo, maybe the Maestro is also a pretty common ban on Kafe, denying that intel, and also it just eases a bit of pressure off IQ, who already has a lot of work to do in terms of finding those gadgets.
Of course, that leaves the final ban to Kanga, and it will be Mirror taken off the board. So nothing too crazy really coming out there from that phase, and sort of, I guess, what we expected.
Yeah, nothing dramatic. The Maverick is just going to make the piano take a little bit interesting, because you'll have to use Habana or Thermite to open that wall, which isn't too much of a struggle. Especially with Thermite, it does mean you have to get up close and personal with that wall into backstore, which is a counterable position for the defense. But with Habana, that does make it a bit more simple. So yeah, I don't think any of those bans are going to have a huge impact on how this map will play out.
If you've just joined the stream, you're looking at our beautiful faces. We're just having a quick rehost. Of course, Dev cursed it last week. I said before the broadcast today, you know, I'll come in and bring away that bad luck, but it wasn't meant to be. So we'll just chat for a little bit while we wait for the players to get set once again. Cafe's been an interesting map for Kanga. Let's talk about that for a second, because when they versed Okami, the first 3 rounds, they got absolutely destroyed, but they actually almost managed to bring that one back.
That was a really good map. Another one that I highly encourage people to go back and rewatch, because as you said, they got flawless, in fact, on those first 3 rounds. So 3 rounds, no kills. Okami looked super comfortable. But then they really brought it back, and in their defense half, they had some massive clutches. There was a big one from Leb in particular that sticks out to my mind, 1v3 in reading. Pretty sure that was the round that took it to overtime. And then even in overtime, the rounds that they lost were still close. In all honesty, that could have been their map if just a couple of things went a bit differently.
It's actually interesting you mentioned Leb there, because on that on the ticker before, it was mentioned that he was one of the top fraggers for Kanga. And I think if you had have said that maybe when he was playing in Challenger League or his early stages of Pro League, that would have been a mistake, because he was playing an ultra hard support role. But there has been a noticeable shift recently, particularly on defense, for example. He's been playing operators like Jaeger, other fraggers alongside, and he's been performing pretty well. And if there's anyone on that team you want in a clutch, it's probably him, because he shows up.
Yeah, he's been really consistent with it, and I've said it a lot so far, but he really is one of the most improved players for me ever since Kanga have broken through into this level. In Pro League last season, I mean, that was his first season of Pro League. He had some rough weeks for sure, as they were really figuring out where to go, but as the season went on, and as we're coming to Six Masters, man, it's like night and day seeing how he plays and how consistently he is playing. That's a really big thing for Kanga, and that's maybe something they can build around now that they've got that player that is showing that consistency. It's about getting everybody else to that consistency level that can really start to glue things together.
I really hope Leb doesn't have a bad game today, because he hates it when the caster curse gets to him. We've just pumped his tires up massively. We're expecting 25 kills from him tonight. If he has a bad night, I think me and you might be in a little bit of trouble.
Look, I was thinking that, and I've thought about that the last couple of weeks because I've gassed him up a little bit, but he's still played really well. So I'm not as worried about cursing him anymore. I'm happy just to keep saying Leb's underrated. He's been improving a lot. So, I mean, prove me wrong.
And I guess we can talk about the Knights now for a little bit. I think Strider. Oh, here you go. It's on the ticker right now. Strider. So he's top fragging, 35 kills, just edging out Leb. He's been performing pretty well. I think even in the games where his team hasn't been the best, he's always been that player to sort of step up. And he's been pretty resilient through some of these tough games.
Yeah, and I think the thing that stands out for me for Strider is he always appears like he's got the calm, kind of cool-headed approach to every situation, no matter at what point in the round it is. He's hit some pretty big clutches for Pittsburgh Knights, and also from the positions he plays, because we've seen him play a lot of Thermite, Habana, those kinds of roles before. Sometimes they have these mid-round struggles where they're stalled out maybe, or something's just not going quite right. And you'd expect a flex player or maybe an entry fragger if they're still alive to be the one that breaks through, but that's often Strider for the Knights. He gets a couple of opening picks, just pushes through maybe a doorway or a breach at an unexpected time, and that's working out really well for the Knights. So in his role, I think he's really excelling.
And I think it's interesting you mentioned there that he's a player that really steps up during those stall phases where the attackers are really trying to sort of head in towards the site. I guess there's maybe not too many great examples than that on Kafe. There are so many choke points, particularly on that top floor, that the attackers need to deal with. You often see really strong holds over towards Cocktail, for example, even if they're holding one of the objectives below. So I think the Knights will really need to try and lean on that, or maybe diversify that role of getting that opening pick on those attacks. Otherwise, again, they could find themselves in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, and two teams that have played Kafe quite strongly in recent history have been Elevate and Wildcard. And one thing I've noticed those teams do when it starts to get to that push to shove moment is they're really comfortable just pushing deep through bar, for example, on that top floor attack. Usually your teams that stall out, they try and wiggle around and get a plant maybe at the trash bags near backstore doorway, or they plant what we call it default just near that new hatch. But what those teams have been doing is just going deep, really pushing out those players in Cocktail and in backstore, which really is freeing things up. And I think if the Knights adopt that, it suits their playstyle, and that might really pay off for them. So I'm hoping that we maybe see that kind of play for them in this series against Kanga.
Yeah, and last time Kanga played this map, it springs to mind, Spruce pretty much exclusively playing Ash, playing quite aggressively and getting actually quite a few picks early, which helped try and open up the rounds. They weren't able to capitalize necessarily on all of those. You had players like God Legion who were just like absolutely decimating Kanga during that map. But I think, as you mentioned, like trying to bring an aggressive player to the roster to clear out these really tough strongholds will be pretty key tonight. And I think it's only going to play into this match being quite scrappy, as we sort of alluded to earlier.
Yeah, and one thing that really concerns me a little bit for Kanga is that they've played Kafe, both weeks. So there's a lot of match footage on them already. And yeah, their map pool is maybe not that strong, but that also indicates that even the maps they play quite a bit of, they probably don't have a lot of depth of strategy either. So there's only so much they can withhold or really surprise their opponents with. And that's going to come down to play style more than strategy. And I really think that the Knights are going to be able to capitalize on that quite easily. That being said, of course, stuff can go wrong, but I just think that it's not going to be working in favor of Kanga in that instance.
Yeah, it could really come down to a battle of who's done the homework heading into this game, because I think it's safe to say that both these teams have pretty strong individual players, both relatively aggressive, can bring flashes of really good play. So when they clash with all that footage out, as you mentioned, that could make things really interesting. If Kanga haven't really changed much since those games, particularly I think the Akami one will give a lot of intel for the Knights. That could spell disaster. We could definitely see the Knights just shred them apart if they've sort of found that key to unlock a lot of Kanga's strategy.
Yeah, I mean, it just puts a big emphasis on adapting, and which is the case in Siege anyway. But in Kanga's position, if Knights are able to take on all that info, develop some good counter strategies, play to their strengths, and then adapt on the fly, which is what you really need to be doing as a high-performing team, I think that's just going to be really tough for Kanga. But that being said, it doesn't mean that they can't step up as well, and maybe they've been working super hard on Kafe over this past week, and maybe the Knights don't realize, and there's been some changes. Players feeling more comfortable within their shell is an important part of how Kanga is going to progress. So players like Campo, for example, that's already been playing quite well, if he continues to excel and improve, that's something that the Knights are going to have to deal with as well.
And I guess we didn't talk about this a whole lot, but the bans, they were pretty standard for the most part. I mean, maybe Ying, you could say, is a little bit of an X factor of sorts, but I think in ANZ, since Ying got the buff, and even post the nerf where one of those Candelas were taken away, she is being a bit of an insta-ban for some of these teams who just do not want to have to deal with her. But that opens up the Thatcher, which could really change how this map plays, because we often see, again, those choke points so difficult to clear.
And it's such a great point, because something that was really occurring last week is Thatcher was getting banned less because Ying is being this insta-ban for a lot of teams at the moment. But Thatcher's still not getting picked. It's like teams have adjusted so well to not using Thatcher. Even when he's available, they don't really want to mess with their operator lineups just to work him back in. So we're actually seeing his pick rate not super high, which is surprising for me, because it feels like in a lot of circumstances when we see teams stall out, it's because of some gadgets. And if Thatcher's available and you're getting stalled out by gadgets, that's such a strong case to just work that Thatcher into your lineup, because you don't want to be stalled out on those kinds of things when such a simple solution is right in front of you.
And I guess that Thatcher treatment is almost a little bit similar to Mirror in a way, because she's an operator on the defense we see banned a lot, but don't see a massive presence normally in ANZ when she is available. And again, that's likely because the teams probably aren't strategizing around that, expecting it to be banned. Maybe the players don't feel very comfortable with the loadout or just the overall play style, and yeah, it makes for some interesting dynamics. I guess as this rehost continues, what can we expect maybe for Clubhouse? Let's talk about that for a little bit, because we know that's going to be our second map. It is a best of 2 series. How's that one going to pan out? Especially if Kafe doesn't go in favor of one of these teams, how can that sort of roll into that second map?
Clubhouse is definitely going to be interesting. The Knights have played Clubhouse in both weeks as well, and they lost. So they lost 3-7 to Ferox in week 1, and they lost 7-8 to Sinister last week. That was, of course, the play from Derpe that I was talking about from Sinister last week that won them that map. So they've had a good performance there against Sinister, whereas Kanga, they played Clubhouse last in Pro League Season 11, and that was actually against Knights. They lost 4-7. So there's not a whole lot for us on Kanga in this map, and I think that's going to be the concern for Knights, because it's Kanga's pick, and I mean, they've got to have picked it for a reason, right?
Well, yeah, you would hope so. I mean, if they can come out with a little bit of that surprise factor and I guess throw the Knights off, that could be interesting. Because I can even envision a scenario where the Knights might just completely smash Kanga here on Kafe. They're really prepared, ready to go. But then they might jump into Clubhouse, and Kanga could throw some stuff out that maybe they aren't expecting. And that confidence could be a little bit of a demise. Sometimes teams can be a little bit overzealous, especially if they're entering into the unknown. And Kanga might be able to capitalize on that. But again, it's in the distant future. We don't exactly know how even this first map's going to play out. So we can only speculate for now, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Clubhouse, is because there's not that much on Kanga, they can use that to their strength, of course. Like, there's a bit of unknown there. The Knights are going to have to be adapting on the fly, and sometimes that can be really tricky. And Kanga is going to have the upper hand in that instance, at least. They've got a bit on the Knights for Clubhouse. So, see how that goes. But hey, Guz, it's Kafe.
Wow. Thanks for pressing the big green button, Raven. How kind of you to get us into this one. Very nice.
Oh,
well, that's...
No way.
Oh, wow. Raven. Oh.
Look, I think people just want to see our face. You know, I feel like it's just somebody in chat being, guys, get out of lobby. We just want to see more of Guz and Raven. I'm sure that's what people in Twitch chat are saying.
Maybe you press the big green button that says start match twice, because I know if you press it twice, it actually then brings us back out. So maybe next time just press it the once, all right? And then we'll be good.
All right, yeah, I'll try work on my button pushing technique.
Hey, maybe, you know what, this is maybe a good time to plug Late Night Siege. This is something you do often. You just, sit here, you talk, have a good time.
Yep.
Talk to us about that, because you had, who'd you have on the show last time? It was Warden, right?
Yeah, Warden from Ferox. So if you don't know, Late Night Siege is a show that we have on Friday nights. It's hosted by myself and Dev Mata. And we have a guest on to help just shine some spotlight on the community and teach you guys some tips on how to play Siege through maps and operator picks and the operator loadouts, that kind of thing. So yeah, Warden was on. He spoke about Mute and Theme Park. You can suss the VOD on Rainbow Six ANZ on Twitch, as well as YouTube. And yeah, I can't say too much about, I guess, this week. That's going to come a bit later, but it's on weekly, so you guys can tune in this week. We'll have a new map, new operator, and a new guest.
What if we go to a third rehost? Do we get like a teaser?
Maybe. Look, it's definitely on the cards.
I'll hold you to that. I guess it is interesting, actually. I've been tuning in. It's interesting to hear a different perspective to the game, because I think a lot of people don't appreciate how differently pro players look at this game. It's almost like a completely different game to the majority of the audience. So it's definitely quite spicy as we are back into the action. Let's go.
Hey. Let's go. All right. Well, it is 4v4, as you can see there. Boats and Strider. Well, Boats was DC'd, but Strider died. So that's a big deal, because he's the Thermite. So that's all hard reach gone for the Knights in this attack, and that's in the first minute. It's going to be a bit tough for them, given that it is pretty important to be using hard breach for most of Kafe. That being said, I see that the side here is reading and dining, so not quite as critical, at least on this attack.
Dino there on the sledge, already trying to make some progress in towards Cocktail. We're seeing Leb holding that solo by the looks of things, often a critical choke point. He's left all alone to try and hold it. There is some players below feeding intel. Spruce doesn't connect with that C4. A second one goes out. Doesn't quite shoot it though, might leave it there to try and scare these attackers as they are now pushing through. But Leb has made his way out.
That he has, so that man advantage is going to be very helpful moving into the second part of the round. It's going to make it a bit harder for the Knights to be able to clear them out, because this site is all about retaking as well as holding just some gentle off-site positions. You can't really sit comfortably in reading, neither can you sit comfortably in dining. So having that man advantage for Kanga means they can probably trade it out, but Dino is going to have something to say about that. As he gets rid of Wayne Man, it means it's a 3 versus 3.
3-on-3 with a minute to go. Hayward with the diffuser up above. Spruce trying to get aggressive now on White Stairs. The question is, are the Knights watching his flank? They may not be. It doesn't look like there's a Claymore either. He will peek, but then fall back. There's now 45 seconds left. Kanga not trying to overextend too far here.
Hayward's just getting away with a plant here, though. Not really contested. Dino's been downed in the cover. So has Hayward. After the plant has been stuck, it is post-plant. Campo does find one, but Juicy is still around. 2 versus 1 for Juicy here. He's going to have to be very careful. He gets the shot onto Campo. It's a great shot. All up to Spruce. His tag's low, as is Juicy. It's going to come down to a very, very short gunfight if they face each other. Juicy playing it very comfortably now, just sitting back. It's going to be on Spruce to have to push, because he can't get the defuse down, but a nice shot there from the side. Spruce gets the round for Kanga. That is round 1 in the books.
Nice start there from Kanga. Tippin. Spruce will be pretty happy with himself after that one. Good way to start things off. That'll give him the early lead. Of course, as you will hear almost every time this map is played, Kafe typically defend-decided. So Kanga should win the first few rounds here, you would expect, just based on form and based on the raw statistics. I'd be interested to actually see how much this map has shifted towards the attackers though, because Kafe, it's been in the pool for quite some time now, and I think the teams have stratted it out quite deeply.
Yeah, I've seen it go sporadic. Sometimes you see the attack winning a lot of rounds, and sometimes it has leaned onto more of that defender-sided nature. So I think it has started to split a bit. So we'll see whether that holds true here or not. I'm really curious how Knights were able to get in and get that plant down essentially undisturbed. I mean, Dino did get down in the very last second of that plant happening, but it seemed like Kanga maybe caught onto it a bit late. Lack of intel, not 100% sure. They're going to be going to Kitchen now, which we've seen them play a lot of, and this has usually been one of their better sides.
Fortunately for Kanga, they now have 5 men heading into this round, so I mean, they did it with 4 in the last, but 5 will, you would think, help them out a little bit here in round number 2. Pretty interesting lineup from Kanga, nothing too unexpected. Leb, though, again playing on an aggressive 3-speed. It will be Vigil this round. Did I say 3-speed? Vigil is a 3-speed, right? Or is he 2-speed? I always get confused on that one. He's 2-speed? No, 3?
I think
okay.
3. Now you made me not sure.
I think it's 3. I don't know. I don't know why there's always doubt in my mind about Vigil for some weird reason. But anyway, I'm sure he'll cause some Knights for the issue. Cause some issues for the Knights. Oh, after that rehost, my words have just departed from my mind.
It happens. it was a rough one, you know, no rounds played. But we got one under the books. Kanga got it, and Knights are going to be hunting for a few here. I'd say 2 or 3 rounds on an attack half is the pass mark you'd be aiming for. Of course, you want to be getting as much as possible, but that's the way you sometimes look at it in terms of your mindset. Helps a lot as a team, not getting too bogged down when a map can favor that one side. Web on this top floor is going to be causing some issues because they're not going to be able to comfortably drone him out as the Vigil. And given that he's already burned around a minute off and he's got support on the second floor, I'm liking the start here from Kanga.
Definitely a confident setup. Spruce providing intel once again on the pulse. Of course, he did clutch up the last round, a 2k for him. So a great start. He's going to try and go for another C4 here. That could be big. And he gets it. That's Dino taken off the board. Sledge will take no further part in this round.
It's a good start in general from Kanga. Knights haven't really had a good opening phase. They've already burned off so much time here. They're still trying to contest to take proper control of this second floor. We did just see Spruce and Campo drop though, which means that Knights are going to have majority control. Already a half the round gone though. They're going to have to put a lot of pressure on site, clear that out, because the really important part of Kitchen is once you've got that vertical control, you try and push out the defenders from site so that they have to either retake or they can't comfortably hold crossfires. And at the moment, Knights don't seem to be doing a whole lot of that.
Minute to go on the board. Hayward's still on the top floor. Keep in mind the objective is all the way down on the first floor inside of Kitchen. And it looks like they will now begin to progress there. Not long left though. Kanga in a great position, wasting a lot of time and getting that initial pick. Puts them in a nice position to try and close out this second round as some flashes will go out. Trying to disturb Kanga. Campo does get taken out. There's now only 30 seconds left. It's canning down quickly. Hayward tries to get one on site. Will drop Wayne Man. So they now effectively do have the man advantage, but not much time left on the board.
Wayne Man was definitely in no man's land there. And actually there's 2 that have come out. That's a great shot. And all of a sudden the Knights just run over the top of Kanga, getting round number 2. So that's just going to even it out straight away. And that was a strong round from the Knights in the end.
There's definitely a time during that round, maybe with about a minute to go, where Kanga seemed like they did everything right. They wasted time, got the pick, made their way back towards site. But when it came crunch time, the Knights completely walking over the top of them, a convincing round win in the end. And that's going to signal to Kanga to maybe not try that again, instead opting to go to the third floor. We're going to see Goyo, Jaeger, and Wamai in play. I'm sure the Knights will be absolutely thrilled to see that in the reveal phase.
Definitely a lot of utility to clear, but you know what? We were talking about it during the rehost there. Thatcher is available, not being played. So something that could so easily deal with those ADSs and magnets is going to be those EMP grenades.
I'm so happy you said that then, Raven. I was like, trying to segue into it, and you did it flawlessly, so I'm very happy.
There you go.
Good start. Well done.
Good.
This is going to be an interesting match. I feel like we might even have a scenario where these teams start trading rounds. I mean, it's been one apiece so far. Neither team looking... Again, it's only the early stages, but neither team looking massively like they have any sort of advantage or edge. That last round was pretty explosive from the Knights though, so maybe if they could try and replicate that again, Kanga could find themselves in a little bit of trouble.
Definitely something they're going to have to deal with on the Knights is that somewhat coordinated, aggressive push. I've written down in my notes that the way that the Knights attack is kind of a strangle style push. They're very good at fanning out and just ensuring that they push you into where they need you to be. And then they get that aggressive frag kind of finish that we just saw in that previous round. It's really common that we see for the Knights. So Kanga under that kind of pressure might struggle to deal with it, and that's where you need players like Wayne Man, for example, on the Maestro. That's a great counter to that. You're seeing a lot of attackers come at you all at once. You're going to want guns like the Alder in your hand.
We will see boats on the Mamai playing that pixel angle. It's a position that the Knights will need to clear out, and as mentioned earlier, could be quite challenging without the Thatcher. Other utility can be used though. We have Arlo who can use his lifelines. Dino with nades, or even Juicy with his bolts. He has been droned down in that position, and utility will now fly out as they try and clear this shield. Good flame there from the Knights will push him out of the position, and should allow Dino to really just come up and smack that shield out of the way. So pretty efficient clear so far. He will actually nade it. Potentially a little bit of a waste, but better safe than sorry.
I actually think great decision, seeing it was a Goya shield. It might have done a lot of damage if he sledged it.
I think you can just do it outside of range, like just. I think. I don't know. I haven't tried it.
Super risky though, surely.
That's all right. It's 6 Masters, Raven. It's time to bring out the big plays.
One thing I really like that I don't think many people would have thought about is that they would have had to burn the magnets so they can use the Capital arrows, right? So it's no longer where you can just freely shoot Capital arrows. If we're Mine's on the board, you have to think about the fact that the magnets catch the arrows and redirect them. So it was good that the Knights did that because that could have been disastrous. It would have been a real waste of important utility. That worked really well. It flushed that player out of that pixel position. Time's starting to really tick away. They still don't have control of the white corridor. Bathroom they do, and Campos is going to get deleted by that frag grenade.
Dino fully utilizing that second nade, and now Kanga's starting to feel the pump. Boats is still holding this second shield, and the Knights might struggle to clear it here again. Not much utility left after clearing out Pixel. Boats plays is smart. He's in a very strong spot, covering Spruce's flank as well, who again has a really nice long angle, but he'll get shut down by Strider. There we go, Strider getting that early pick on the Thermite. Juicy meanwhile has been down, so it is effectively a 4-on-3 unless they go for that pickup. Not much time left though, and Lev now will reposition towards White Stairs. The plant now going down. I don't think anyone from Kanga's in a position to deny this. Some players push through as Wayne Man jumps onto his drone. That was very awkward. Getting absolutely timed there on the Maestro, and now it's a 2-on-4 post plant. I don't think Kanga will win this round. Surely not. Lev does get one. 30 seconds left now on that diffuser, but look at the Knights. They're playing so patiently, so passively, just ready and waiting for these players to fall into position. And they have a player on the roof who can basically just sit there for 6 seconds and peek over while they're counter diffusing. So I think it's safe to say, Raven, that this round is pretty much all but over. Wayne trying to long arm it here. I still think he might be exposed to that angle. He will be. Gets shut down. Lev as well. And the Knights will close out the round.
And now that's the great thing about the trash bags plant, is if you've got somebody to cover from Skylight, it's next to impossible to lose that because you don't have to peek. You just have to know if they're fully sticking it, and then you just have to quick peek, you can clear it. It's super easy. So well played by the Knights to get themselves into that position. It was like I was saying, they got those picks and pushed Kanga back into those spots where they couldn't deny. I mean, Wayne Man, unfortunate timing, whipping out his phone when there was a sledge looking right at him. That could have maybe changed things a little bit. But either way, the Knights looking pretty good on these attacks now after that first round.
And that round really kicked off on the back of Strider's opening pick, and we mentioned this earlier. Despite being more of that support role, there's plenty of occasions where the Knights are falling back to him to try and open up the round. And in that occasion, he shut down Spruce, I believe, playing the Goyo ACOG TCSG. A strong position holding that line of sight in towards the plant. Basically, once he was down, it was super tricky for Kanga to try and reposition for the plan, and ultimately it proved impossible.
That's the other great thing about that piano wall that you open into bar as opposed to backstore to get that trash bag plant, is you've got that long angle towards Cocktail. You can hold from Skylight all of bar essentially, and also Cigar can hold that long angle through. So if they don't have denial from distance or below, it's so hard to be able to actually deny that plant. And that's really the situation that we saw Kanga forced into.
Well, for this round number 4, we are heading back to Kitchen. We've already seen it make one appearance, and the blue team, that's the Pittsburgh Knights, the attackers, were able to close it out. Currently now on a 2-round streak after winning above. It's a pretty solid start for them. If they can even win one more here, get a 3-1 lead, and at worst, draw out the first half of this map on a map like Kafe. That's going to be so big, and I think that's going to be a nice confidence booster for them.
And really puts the pressure on Kanga, a team that has struggled a lot more with their attacks than defenses. If they are losing more rounds on their defense halves, well then that's going to feel pretty bad going into their attack half. This really could be a play on mindset if the Knights do manage to secure a majority of rounds so far. Dino, lucky to be alive. Looks like he's on maybe 5 HP and a pretty early engagement there.
believe he was the opening death of the Knights in the previous round, so looking to try and not repeat that. Expecting him to get to work quite quickly here with that sledgehammer on the off chance that a stray C4 or a single bullet takes him out. He doesn't want to be left with that utility in the grave. It's no use there. We'll send out a nade over towards wide stairs. No one currently sitting in that position. Kanga already rotating away, and Knights will now, at the halfway point, begin to gather some ground, but it's definitely slow and steady.
Just slow and steady, and it's something that will really come back to bite you when you're attacking the kitchen bomb site. As I said, if you don't get a lot of that floor control, which is going to be on Dino, and he's so easily fragged out now, all it's going to take is just an errant bullet through the floor, and he's gone. Spruce is spotted out there with the IQ scanner, so they're going to be very much aware of the intel that's being collected on them. But again, into the final minute, they need to be putting so much more pressure onto site, because at the moment, Kanga are just collecting all this intel. They can run around freely on site. Nothing is really stopping them. That's an unfortunate miss there of that C4. Some of that utility being a little bit wasted, but Kanga have full HP still, so really strong advantage in their favor.
Those C4s being wasted should prompt the Knights to get some pretty nice control above now, without too much of a threat below. They have 30 seconds to do so, plenty of utility still on the board for either team. Spruce as well, still gathering intel. As now the pressure is being put on Kanga. The wall inside Bakery has been opened, and again, Hayward will get the opening pick this time. It'll be on IQ. That's Leb taken off the board. The top fragger so far for Kanga off the board, but it will be refragged. That's Wayne Man at the bottom of the stairs, and he could flank around and get a massive couple of kills here. He just whiffs on the first, though, and does get taken down, so it is a 3-on-2. Spruce and Boats need to hold out for just a couple more seconds, as the plant must be stuck. They need to try and deny it. Spruce gets a double for the round. He gets a triple. Can he deny the plant? No, but he gets the down, and he will win the round for his team. Spruce with a massive 4K. Some would say that's an ace, but I'm going to say it's a 4K. Spruce absolutely showing up there for his team, and once again, he will shine through. What a play.
That was huge from Spruce, and also a little slack from Knights. I mean, they just had such a simple crossfire to hold. Fair enough that maybe the guy at the double door in Red Hallway got fragged out, because that was a trade. But then the cover of the plant, I think, should have been maybe a little bit more simple than that. I don't know. Either way, great clutch from Spruce there. Gets Kanga their second round. Keeps them in this so far. They're going to be wanting to get these next two rounds, as I was saying before. It's their attack half that's generally been their weakest. So they're definitely going to be wanting to get the biggest lead possible out of this defense.
How many kills did Spruce get that round, Raven? Do you want to just remind me?
Screen was saying quad kill, guys. I'm going to go with a 4K.
Are you sure it wasn't an ace? Are you sure?
Definitely not an ace.
No, I've just had word in my ear. It is confirmed to be a 4K. Sorry, Dev. We're making fun of Dev. Last week he falsely called a 4K as an ace, and it was pretty funny. That joke has now successfully been beaten to death, and we will no longer make fun of Dev ever again.
That part's not true, but that joke.
Oh no. Poor Dev, he's probably watching as well.
Yep, no doubt. Look, I'm just looking at these kills here. Something interesting. Spruce is out on 7 and 2. Of course, he just got a lot of kills in that round, but he is so far having a good early impact with Kanga. We talked about how there has been patches where he gets quite a few frags or has some kind of impact. But on top of that, I think he's getting a lot of really good intel. I mean, we saw him scanning very safely for a long time in that previous round. Giving so much intel to his team about where the push was coming from. So I think he's really been facilitating these positive rounds for Kanga.
I think one thing we haven't really mentioned yet is Arlo is actually running the LMG on Sophia over the assault rifle, which I think some would say is one of the most powerful guns in the game. So definitely an interesting decision from him. It's not the first time I've ever seen a player in competitive run the LMG, but it's definitely a rarity. Interesting to see how he pops off. I think he was running it with the holo as well, so definitely quite interesting.
Yeah, look, that LMG, especially with a one-time scope, so like a holo or a reflex, it's severely underrated. I highly encourage people to give it a try because it's a good gun, and not having to reload pretty much ever. You could almost go a whole round without reloading, depending how much you pre-fire. That's actually really comfortable as somebody that's trying to play a little more aggressive.
Kanga trying to find some comfort on their roam this round. Knights trying to force them out of Cocktail. Again, below Spruce tapping in top for his team. He does get lit up. Likely Hayward on the IQ has spotted him. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage though, and Spruce again will be left to gather more intel for his team. C4 gets ripped on White Stairs. I believe that's Wayne Man. Potentially ready to throw it out. Dino could find himself in a world of hurt here. C4 does get shot, I believe, in mid-air as Juicy gets the entry there onto him. He gets a second, absolutely popping off in this round. Boats gets one back though. The Cocktail fight is still well and truly alive. The refrag's coming out. And it's Boats that gets on top, but unfortunately the rest of his team has dropped. And now it is a 1-on-3. And the Knights, with a minute to play for, just need to try and get that bomb down. Surely they can rotate over towards Library and get in the default position. There are holes above that they need to be careful of. Definitely a winnable round here for Boats. He hears that plant going down. Pre-fires the default, but that's not where they're planting. Strider sticking it over to his right, I believe, and now it's a post-plant. Boats in a 1-on-3.
Definitely a tough retake attempt here for Boats ahead of him. The Knights have been able to set up in some pretty solid positions. They're all quite spread out though, so he might be able to wiggle some little 1v1s, get himself back into it. Half the plan timer ticking away, not giving himself much of an opportunity. He's trying to get these pre-fires. Juicy's going to hear the drop though. He's going to finish it off for the Knights. Another good round for them, attacking the Library Dining bomb site, and that's another good round for the Knights.
So far, it's been a solid half for the Knights at worst. They'll draw out the first half 3-3, and with this map again, typically, I just want to stress that, typically being defender-sided, a 3-3 result would be great for them. A 4-2 even better. Keep in mind it is their map pick, so you would expect the Knights to perform well, and maybe Kanga not really expecting to take this one. But I'm sure for their confidence it'll be great. The Knights probably not having the best start to the season, or not the start that they would have liked. So just trying to crawl some maps back here for the remainder of the season, I think will be really good for them as they try and fight their way out of that second last position.
Just looking back at my stats for this half as well, something really interesting is that 4 out of the 5 attacks we've seen, the plant has gone down. And 2 of those are Kanga diffusers, and 2 of them are actual just plant wins for the Knights. But either way, that's a really high plant percentage for an attack half. So that's a really good positive sign for the Knights at least. Really drastically increases your win percentage, right? If you get that plant down, you're much more likely to win the round than if you're going to frag.
Unless Spruce comes and spoils the party.
Yes, just kill Spruce first.
Pretty much. No Spruce during the plant equals win. Pretty simple formula for the Knights. But actually, yeah, I think it's really interesting you bring up the plant percentage because there's been plenty of games, whether it be in Six Masters 2020 or Pro League Season 10, 11, where you might have gone some maps where there might have been maybe like 1 plant, no plants, really low percentages. So to see it so high already on this map as well, definitely quite interesting.
Yeah, a couple of those, they were getting plants down early. First rounds in that Library Dining attack, they got that plant down with about 45 seconds to go. And then likewise with Bar Cocktail one as well, they managed to win. That plant still had about 40 seconds left of the round. So that's a really promising sign for the Knights' attacks. And maybe also something that Kanga can go back and look at and just figure out how they can better stall out some of these teams, because the defense should have a lot of comfort in being able to stall out an attack. So that's probably a bit of a red flag.
Leb and Spruce both crouch walking on the bottom floor. Quite interesting. The Knights will need to be mindful of their flanks later in this round. Or else they might feel the pain. Dino already making his way in towards Bathroom. Could cut off Spruce, but doesn't. He makes his way over towards Cocktail. Dino not quite cutting that off. He will use a nade once again on that shield. He's going to have one in the pocket to try and use later. Might try and flush out Spruce, who again is holding this key position. It's looking like Kanga set up basically the same. It's coming up to the Knights to try and pick it apart once again.
I can't state enough how huge that map control from Dino is at the stage he got it. In the first minute, clearing out the person in Pixel and just taking straight through to Bathroom is such a big part of being able to attack us. And he's just going to press down, gets a nice kill onto Spruce. He's on the double now. Kanga reeling in this round. They're going to have to try and get this trouble player. He sees Dino on the ground. Not a great spot for him. Good attempt or good push there from Leb. But Arlo has something else to say about it. Stunts that momentum. Kanga are looking like they're on the ropes here for this half.
Great play there from Leb. The Knights really struggling to try and clear that shield. We saw it stand for most of their previous attempt here. But they are at a severe man disadvantage. The Knights just taking their time to try and exactly locate where these players may be to try and cut them off. Arlo will send in a drone. He's the only one currently droning for his team, and during that, Leb gets another. Kanga try and crawl this round back. Not sure if Wayman's position has been revealed. It will now as he crosses, he gets taken down, and now Leb needs to go absolutely massive this round as he finds another. That's the triple for the round. He needs the ace as Strider will go for the plant. Fakes it out once. Arlo left to try and cover. The pre-fire comes out. Nothing Leb can do to try and counter that. And the Knights will take the half 4-2.
Round from Knights in the end. Kanga just never really gave themselves that shot once they lost that important map control so early. On top of that, it was the Wamai that got fragged out. This is something I didn't really get to say. But when you lose a Wamai so early, I mean, his magnets accumulate over time. So losing him early means that you're not really getting full use of that operator. Again, that makes it easier for the attack. So the Knights, just that first minute set up that solid round win for them.
Of course, now we jump into the second half here on Kafe. That means that the Knights will be defending and Kanga attacking. Keep in mind, if this is your first time watching Six Masters, you might be a little bit more acclimatized to the previous ANZ competitive format, in which there was no overtime, but in Six Masters 2020, there is overtime. No draws. So keep that in mind. We could be in for a long one here. It's up to Kanga to try and really initiate that though, and being on the attack, that might be challenging.
Yeah, their attacks in the past have been left wanting. There's really been some struggles there with some of their coordination. I'm a little bit concerned of how they're going to take this, given that Knights are also a somewhat aggressive team on their defenses. So against an attack that struggles with a bit of coordination and maybe time management, aggression will really be what dismantles it. Unless the Knights get over-aggressive, I guess that's where it's going to be too far. So if you give Kanga the early advantage, well, maybe you're going to give them some confidence and comfort to be able to secure rounds.
Yeah, and I think Kanga's attacks have really been dismantled. Maybe not the best way to describe it, but have definitely been lacking since the departure of Pat, who moved to wildcard. He was definitely a key figure in keeping Kanga's direction on attacks and strategy quite directed, and was definitely a strong voice for that team. But with him gone, it doesn't feel like Kanga have since really been able to recover that. Of course, it's definitely something they have been working on and will continue to work on. And maybe we'll see a bit of a shift here in this second half. I thought Arlo I thought that was an attacker just jumping straight over a mute jammer, but obviously it's Arlo and Mozzie.
Yeah. Yeah, but hey, he got away with that scot-free because Spruce was the one that droned Pixel. Not in a position to be able to shoot it quick enough. So that's really important intel that the Knights are going to have now. On top of the fact they've got these Evil Eyes and Valkyrie cameras. So if both a little bit slack on that scanner, well then the Knights are going to have an abundance of intel to be able to counter this defense. So far, Kanga are really struggling to get some good map control here. Knights are still running around quite heavily on the bottom floor. Spruce, that engagement on Arlo, comes out on top, so that's definitely going to help. They have managed to secure some second floor control, and they're not really taking Piano, which is the more traditional way to attack on this top floor.
Definitely saw them bring out something similar on their last match against Elevate, particularly that Spruce entry below. Does net them a kill here in this one. No more Ash charges left to use. Definitely could have some issues with utility later in this round. It doesn't feel like Kanga have really invested a lot of effort or utility in trying to clear what the Knights have set up. Instead, just taking it to them with gunfights. Does feel like they're under a bit of pressure, but Strider will drop that diffuser, and Wayman off to the east balcony. Another frag will come out from Spruce. With 3 frag left, right, and center, leaving it now in a 3-on-1. Campo, his position has been revealed. Meantime, Hayward was dropped, so it's effectively a 2-on-1. The Knights possibly in a position to pick him up, albeit he is below the objective, so they may not try and go for it. Now Campo needs to try and find 2 picks without getting refrag.
Yeah, I think they're going to be aware that he's pushing in through the bottom of white stairs now, so they might decide to go get Hayward. There's definitely an opportunity there, but maybe not. Seeing his health tick away and time ticking away as well. Campo's not really giving himself much of a chance to clutch this out. Versus one situation. He's low HP, he's pre-firing every angle possible, but he's not going to have enough time to get the plant down. He's going to smoke himself off, but it's not going to be enough at all as the Knights get this round. First round of the second half.
Very much an unorthodox approach there from Kanga, trying to take control below and put window pressure in towards Cocktail. Just didn't quite work out. Knights winning their ones and able to shut that down. They will now head over to Kitchen, try and head themselves into match point if they have that 6-2 lead. Really start to put the blowtorch on to Kanga. I think it's catching up with them a little bit here. Maybe Kafe, just a map that they're not overly amazing on, especially on these attacks. That first one, despite trying to bring some creativity, just didn't quite seem to click.
Yeah, let's wind it back and talk about that creativity. Their push was pretty interesting. They were trying to do something a bit different there. They got that second floor control below site, and they were using that to try and push out those attackers from Cocktail, which is great because that's often the biggest weakness of attacking top floor, is that there's just so much control the defenders can hold from the east side at Cocktail that it can be hard to push through bar at all. So they focused on that a lot. They had players below, players on the windows. But the issue with that is because Cocktail is such a comfortable spot to play, there was just not enough pressure on those attackers to push them into positions that were fraggable. And what you saw in the end was the defenders just hit comfortably through the rafters, for example. They hit those windows comfortably. And Kanga just fell one by one in quick succession. And then that was pretty much it at that stage.
Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb and defuse it.
Kitchen, of course, not really providing an opportunity to attack from below. Instead, teams often taking control vertically from above. Maybe Kanga will bring something special to the table here, maybe something a little bit different. Looks like once again they'll be droning Spruce in for the entry. Dino has some very handy intel, knowing exactly where every single one of these attackers is coming from, and I'm sure he'll be relaying that to the rest of his team. He might even go for a run out here. Pretty risky. Players repelling up upside down to make it easier to go for the shot, but Dino's going to go for it. Will he be able to hit the shot? He goes for it. The IQ will actually kill him. Boat somehow gets away with his life and takes Dino off the board. That was close.
Yeah, I think he just went a little too early, if you're going to ask me. Like, I think he should have waited maybe till the IQ was halfway up the building, so that window smash was maybe a little more faint. Might have second guessed exactly where it was coming from. Unlucky for Dino there. I mean, he took Boats pretty low. Boats is going to have to deal with that as the round progresses. It's given Kanga a bit of a confident entry as well. I mean, look at that. Ever since they got to the top, they've just pushed all the way down, already on second floor. Strong vertical control for them, and they can start to work out some of these positions on site. Rider, maybe though, in a bit of an unpredictable position here at the bottom of white. That's something to say about it.
Of course, with Boats being so low, a single shot from Strider's UMP will be enough to take him down. They're very risky having him on the entry. Kanga will likely try and exploit Boat's ability to try and find intel on side instead of risking that low percentage entry. So we're almost with a minute to go, Raven. This round definitely ticking down quite quickly, and it's time now for Kanga to get this meaningful control.
Strider just taking a few shots there at that drone, finally gets the edge of the wheel. Kanga looking like they're heavily favouring taking that dining VIP side. Spruce looking to push down brown stairs aggressively to that position towards Strider. He's going to drone it out first at the top. Leb's trying to put pressure onto site, but the Knights are doing a very good job of not peeking those rafters and not giving Kanga an inch. And that means that as time ticks away, it's going to be very hard for them to actually get an execute happening here. Some very strong positions held as gunfights coming off. Arlo really surrounded though. I can't believe he's still alive. There's 3 players shooting at him. Strider even gets one of them. And this is just falling apart here for Kanga.
Arlo going big, and now it's Wayneman and Lev left to try and bring this round back. Not a lot of time, and if this round does go in favor of the Knights, They'll have the match point. Rainman enters in towards Freezer as his teammate gets dropped. Hayward with the final kill. A shotgun to Wayneman will shut him down. And the Knights now on match point. Don't know how Arlo got away with that, but he did. And I don't think Kanga will be very happy.
No, I don't think so. Arlo was done and dusted. He had 3 players around him. Before he had solid backup, somehow he managed to wheel around and had a massive impact onto that attack, getting those 2 kills. All played by him, and yeah, Kanga, wow, they're down 6-2 here. I mean, they've had some okay Kafe performances, but I think this is up there with one of their weaker ones. So, good pick from the Knights in terms of their map. Looks like they are going to secure it, but maybe there's a Kanga comeback in the wind here, Guz.
The Kanga comeback. Oh. It's like an alliteration that isn't technically an alliteration, but like it sounds really cool. Kanga comeback. We'll just spell comeback with a K. Why not? I don't think I would hedge my bets on Kanga bringing this one back. I mean, look, they might. All right, someone can clip this if Kanga come back and prove me wrong. But I think that the Knights are looking pretty strong here. 6-2 lead. It's pretty sad gamer hours, I think, for Kanga at the moment, and they'll probably be looking to just finish this one off and head into their map pick, which will be Clubhouse with a fresh.
Bomb located by attackers. 10 seconds left.
Nice hesitation there on that impact. Worried he was going to set that Goya shield up.
That would have been awkward.
But
Attackers objective is the bomb.
this is going to be... I mean, one thing that worked so well in favor of Kanga was that failed jump out from Dino. They just failed to capitalize on that because they got such good map control with a man advantage for a kitchen attack. And then they just lost so much time either trying to work picks. I think they lost a lot of drones trying to drone out bottom of wide in that VIP section. So I guess that's well played from Knights, just shooting those drones and denying the intel. They'll have to fix it here because they need to be able to take top 4 control as quick as possible because they need to be able to flush out those positions in reading, for example. We're seeing the Knights heavily holding on Cocktail.
Juicy just putting the final touches on the Knights defense
Bomb located by
as
attackers.
that timer is ticking down. Again, we're going to see the defenders, the Knights, of course, on this occasion holding Cocktail Lounge. Some shields, some reinforced walls, and other utility to assist, and it's going to be up to Kanga to try and counter util that, try and clear it. They have the means to do so. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy though. And of course, that clock is always counting against you on the attack.
Now, Kanga's still all on the roof as well, so half the round played. They're only just entering the building here. That's a lot of map control they so far not taken advantage of. The fact that there are 2 players in Cocktail and now a dead boats means that Kanga have a lot ahead of them. They're not going to be giving themselves much time for an execute here if Knights can hold on to Cocktail. Oh, that C4 was big from Strider, so it's not looking great here for Kanga.
Campo gets one back though. Hayward getting a little bit overzealous. He's shut down inside of shop. Critically though, the Knights still have control of the Cocktail Lounge. It's Arlo there on the castle. Juicy coming to assist on top of White Stairs. All it takes is Arlo to find a pick or 2 here, and surely the rest of his team can close out the round, even if he is shut down. Playing it so patiently, I don't think Kanga is there. He gets almost the first, but misses the shots. I was just about to call it. Campo was actually down. Will survive though. He's picked up, and now it's a 3-on-3.
Yes, I mean, Kanga have a bit of a look in here, but
Another
the
C4.
Knights, these C4s have been huge. All kills have been C4s. So the Knights will have that man advantage coming to the final 30 seconds, and a lot of good control around site here. Means that Kanga are really going to be able to, not going to be able to get an easy plant down. That's what I was trying to say. They are going to try and maybe change their push, but with only 20 seconds, it's going to be real tough.
Kanga don't have to deal with any more C4s, but they do have to deal with some guns. And there we go. Dino and Strider will finish off map number 1. The Knights convincingly taking it 7-2. And the Knights looking pretty good here. Trying to regain some form. What a performance from them. Good start.
Yeah. And actually, looking back at some stats here, Pro League Season 11, the last time these guys played each other, the Knights won 7-2 on Kafe. So things have not changed since then. And the weakest performance, in fact, for Kanga in 6 Masters. So it's not great for them. They're going to go back to the drawing board, but up next is their map on Clubhouse, so maybe that's their shot.
Yeah, I think there was a point in that map, probably after maybe even round 3. It felt pretty early, even when the Knights won those first won rounds 2 and 3, 2 in a row. It felt like it was starting to slip a little bit from Kanga, and they just weren't ever able to sort of recover. I mean, they did get round number 4, but that was off the back of that Spruce 4K, so you can't be relying on those players all the time. And then from there, it sort of just steamrolled, and unfortunately, Kanga I don't think they had enough depth on that map in the end.
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment. And yeah, look, after it was 2-2, that was it. Pittsburgh Knights won every round after that. And 4 of those were elimination. So they were essentially running over the top of Kanga, just getting all the frags they needed to. So it was a really strong map overall from the Knights. Kanga just struggled to counter that. And now I'm a little fearful for them moving into Clubhouse, because even though it was their pick, Clubhouse traditionally relies quite a lot of coordination on both sides. It's not just attack, it's also defense. Some of those defenses you really need to be working very cohesively as a team to pull off. And the Knights seem like they're the ones that have got that cohesion.
Well, that's map number 1 done and dusted. Pittsburgh win 7-2, but come back on the other side for the second one.
Attackers dropped the diffuser. Attackers are activating the diffuser. Attackers need to protect the diffuser.
Please hold. Your call is very important to us. All operators are busy at this time.
Till I'm at your door, go outside. Stay up all night, sleep through the sunrise. Look into my past and I count the numbers of the dreams that I left behind. I don't even care now that I've discovered a new kind of peace of mind. Up above us, looking down on us, there's an angel I know. We don't need to worry or discuss much. It's time for me to hit the road. Take it all or nothing at all. Driving through the night till I'm at your door. Go outside, stay up all night, sleep through the sunrise. Take it all or nothing at all. Driving through the night till I'm at your door. Go outside, stay up all night. And gonna take it all or nothing at all. Driving through the night till I'm at your door. Go outside, stay up all night, sleep through the sunrise. Turn my heart into something gold. No, I sold my soul to the devil long ago. I rode it all along on your wave right before it broke. Time was thrown down.
G'day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Six Masters 2020 Playday and number 5. I'm Gaz Raven, still alongside, and we're coming out the other side of what was a pretty one-sided Kafe encounter, 7-2 in favour of the Knights.
Yeah, it really was one-sided. Kanga just never really looked that in it, even when they were up, or not up, sorry, when they equaled it out at 2-2. Just looking back over the match tracker, the 2 rounds they did manage to win were counter diffusers on their defense. So the Knights were getting plants down on those rounds. Well and truly could have been the Knights winning those, which means we could have seen a Knights 7-0. There's a very real possibility. So Kanga just, yeah, they're struggling so far tonight.
And those 2 rounds are off the back of Spruce stepping up. So, I mean, great work by him, but you can't be relying on those one-off plays because they're not going to produce results. And we saw that 7-2. Of course, map number 2 is Clubhouse, Raven. How can we expect that one to play out? Because this one will actually be Kanga's pick. So the first map was the Pittsburgh Knights. Being their map pick, can they bring something fresh here to try and turn the tide? Try and win their first map of Six Masters as well. Let's stress that. They still haven't won a map.
This is going to be more of an unknown. I mean, we haven't seen them play Clubhouse so far in Six Masters. So this might be the one that they've really been working on with some neat little tricks that the Knights are going to have to figure out on the fly. But the Knights have played a lot of Clubhouse. So they played it in week 1 and week 2. They lost both times. So 3-7 to Ferox and then 7-8 to Sinister. Pretty close. And in fact, the last time these guys played each other, I said that that the Knights won 7-2 on Kafe. Well, the other map that they played was Clubhouse, in fact. And the Knights won that 7-4.
Well, of course, you guys at home can participate in the community polls over on Twitter at Rainbow6ANZ. Let's recap the results for this series and see who's been knocked out of the running. And it looks like it will be 38% of you, but there's still 62% going strong.
Yeah, still the potential for the draw. That's really important. So if Kanga do win this map, then it means that series is tied out. Both teams will get 3 points. And then it comes down to that round differential in terms of their specific head-to-head. But I've got to say, after how the first map played out, I'm a little worried for Kanga just based on their struggles to get stuff happening. And the Knights seem like they're playing pretty good Siege tonight. There's definitely some mistakes still from their side. For example, those post plants that they should have won well and truly. That kitchen plant that Spruce clutched out with a 4K, that was well and truly the Knights round. And I think they really just messed up their positioning.
Well, Clubhouse, it's ready and waiting. So let's jump into it. It's Pittsburgh Knights taking on Kanga. Map number 2 in this best of 2 series. It should be a cracking one. Let's jump right in. Now, Raven, I think something interesting you actually mentioned there was the round difference, how that can play a big role. Even if Kanga win this map, they need to pretty much smash the Knights to make up what they lost there on Kafe. And we've already seen other teams fall victim to something similar. I mean, if we think back to Elevate and LFO, Elevate actually came out of that draw with a lower round difference. And those sort of results can really come back to bite you later in the season.
Yeah, it really can. You really need to be getting those results nice and early, of course. Set yourself up for a good position in that late league, because we've seen it happen with some of these top teams that drop maps early. Comes down to that final week, and maybe they need 3 points to get through to a certain spot. Maybe it's first place, but they're up against that team, and that makes it tough. So, yeah, secure the points when you can.
Nothing too wild in the ban phase so far. Let's set our eyes maybe on who these teams are playing next. Pittsburgh Knights will be taking on LFO. Raven, that one could be interesting again. Two aggressive teams going head to head.
I would definitely be excited for that matchup. I mean, LFO are a hot to trot team at the moment, but Knights are looking good in this series. I think this could be the series that helps them play into some more form. In terms of those bans, I mean, we're seeing an exactness. I don't know whether that's a word.
Identical.
Identical, yeah, that's probably the right word. You're right. Identical bans to Kafe, so nothing too dramatic. The Maverick might have more of an effect though here on Clubhouse.
And of course, Kanga in their next matchup, they'll have a wild card that is looking on paper like it might be a little bit of a tough one for them. Of course, wild card get to play this week, so we don't exactly know if they're in great form. But yeah, I think Kanga might have a rough one next week. Or in their next playday.
Currently Wildcard are the top of the ladder team, so I dare say they probably are in for quite a rough match, especially given how map 1 went.
Well, nothing is set in stone. If there's anything to note about ANZ is particularly later in the season, teams love to pull an upset, especially against the top teams. Been many occasions of that happening. Sun a little bit close to heart, Raven, as you would know, if we go all the way back. But I won't bring up those.
Probably season 10. That feels like a long time ago.
Yes, it was. Oh, the nostalgia. I mean, it wasn't really like that long ago, but it was kind of.
I mean, close to a year, almost exactly a year. So 12 months is a long time in esports.
It's a long time in Siege. Obviously, Siege continuing to evolve. The meta always changing up. Many would say we're in a utility clear meta, but Juicy's like, nah, we're playing the frag meta. Gets that opening pick onto Wayneman, and that's a nice way to start off proceedings.
Oh, yes. Good entry frag there, or opening frag, I should say, for Juicy on the Thatcher. So seeing more Thatcher play. We didn't really see much of it on Kafe. I'm still surprised, but I mean, Knights definitely weren't struggling with their attacks, that's for sure. Gonna see it a lot more on Clubhouse, I'd say, because it's so helpful on Kafe, especially if you're attacking Church, for example. You're gonna need it to counter the Kai trick, and if you're attacking CCTV, Gym, those walls to get open. I think definitely you just bring in that Thatcher.
Still yet to reach the halfway point. The Knights beginning to put in the groundwork. That opening pick definitely helping in gathering this control. Interestingly enough, Kanga actually leaving the bar hatch soft. Any reason why they might do that?
Changing maps.
I feel like it was meant to be part of a roam strat, and maybe with Wayneman dying early before he could drop back to bar, his job was to open that bar hatch and drop back to site. I reckon that's probably what's happened. That's a big pick from Spruce though onto the Habana, so not 100% sure if she's fully or effectively used those X Kairos. Kitchen hatch has been opened at least, so that's definitely an important stage.
Dino left to sit at the bar, have a nice swig of water as he waits for the next round. Strider, meanwhile, with the diffuser in hand, will make his way down the central stairs. Being barricaded off, so his presence will well and truly be made aware to the defenders who have heard him spray it down. I think the plan for the Knights will be to try and get this church wall open, but it's not going to be an easy task.
Being said, Strider's there. Thermite charge on the wall, gonna open it as well. He's gonna flash straight through, almost flashing himself. Juicy finds Spruce in the church, which means that the Knights are really in the box here to get the plant down. Strider dies to the player in blue though, but it makes them 2 vs 2 with Juicy's refrag, and maybe this plant is gonna be tough for the Knights. Oh, maybe not.
No. Juicy just got an ace. Okay, let's go. What a way to open it up. Juicy just goes ham. He makes his way all the way through blue, finds those 2 picks and says, I'll do it myself, lads. Thank you very much. Good night. Okay. Wow. I'm a bit speechless after that. That came out of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, Juicy just hit a button and went off. And I mean, yeah, it did all start with that pick onto Wayne Man in construction, stopping him from getting down the hatch. And once the Juicy train started down on that bottom floor, it didn't stop until he got the ace. It's well played from Juicy. And the Knights looking to continue this strength again onto Clubhouse. That's their 6th round in a row for the Knight, if you include map 1.
Question is, how many can they go? Juicy can keep popping off. That number might keep ticking upwards. Of course, keep in mind, Juicy,
Attackers need to locate and defuse
one
bombs.
of the newer members to this roster, hasn't been around as long as some of the others. He was fulfilling more of a sub role back in the day, but now he's appearing to be in the squad full time, and I think he's really been playing quite well. Despite being on that support, he's a little bit like Strider in the sense that there's rounds, last one case in point, where he just pops off, gets the job done, and you wouldn't have even known if he was playing a Thatcher or an Ash. It just doesn't matter. He doesn't care. He just shreds through. And look, if I'm Kanga, I'm a little bit scared after that first round.
On top of that, Juicy actually had a really good map 1 as well on Kappa Tower. Played heaps of Kappa Tower, and he was getting a lot of picks and some really important ones, opening kills as well. So he's having a really good series so far against Kanga. And again, I'm just a little concerned. This is Kanga's pick. On defense as well, so you usually lean into your defense half on Clubhouse, and that's not a great start. Hopefully they can bring some form back. It is just 1 round, but the Knights are looking strong and confident so far. Again, look, only 20 seconds played, but they've got some really important positions and line of sights already established.
Definitely been a key difference between these two. The first sort of minute of the round is more often than not dictated how the rest has played out. The Knights on their attacks gaining a lot of ground and already expending useful utility. Whereas there were rounds, again, on Kafe, where we were halfway through and Kanga weren't even in the building yet. So definitely a contrast in those playstyles. And I'm sure if Knights stick to their guns here, they'll be looking pretty good.
Looking to get a little aggressive on that construction angle, but that's probably not a great idea. No one actually on it anymore. Trying to get that Kennels Wall open. I mean, their time management's been pretty good, but they're struggling with this right now. You would really hope the Kennels Wall is open at around the first minute played of the round. Tampa doing a good job there as the Bandit, just denying it. Strider is going to finally be able to get that open though. There's no more denial. The Knight tests around it, giving themselves half the round to try and get an execute ready. Probably looks like it's going to be onto CCTV given where the diffuser is right now.
Will heading towards garage. An interesting shield set up on the stairs to the right, potentially trying to hold that. Looks like that player has fallen back. There is still one on the rafters. That's Wayne Man on the Wamai, running the MP5K, as opposed to the Orb. As Leb will now well and truly make his way back to site. So Kanga really trying to hunker down in this last minute.
They're really surrounded at this stage. You see Dino and Hayward there already in construction, putting a lot of pressure on these players in cash. Boats is holding that tight angle into the breach from construction, but Strider still can decide where he wants to plant. Given how the Knights have this control and the breaches that are open, they could plant either side here. Hayward does finally get the opening for on the boats. Again, the Knights really look like they're in the box seat for this round as Dino is actually on site. Juicy gets an opening pick and it's falling apart for Kanga guards. It's all up to Spruce now.
Oh, and there we go. It's a flawless round for the Knights. And I was just about to mention that Spruce is lurking below, could be in a great position to deny the plant, but the rest of the defense just fell apart and Spruce just left with no opportunity to have an impact in that round. Quite reminiscent of Kafe, isn't it? The Knights expending early utility, really forcing Kanga into some awkward positions on the side, and they pretty much just sweep the floor and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, things aren't looking good for Kanga. They're going to rotate bomb side again, so they haven't repeated anything yet. They're going to gym bedroom. See whether this maybe is a bit more comfortable for them. And they've got the right operators here, but the Knights have just been so efficient with their time management and the way they gain control. I mean, there was still 30 seconds to go, and as we saw Strider pushing through one of the breaches, Dinos just ran all the way through cash, all the way through CCTV, hunting the player down on Catwalk Garage. I mean, that's pretty aggressive but confident play from the Knights. Juicy there on 7-0 right now after 2 rounds.
The Knights, of course, winning the first 2 rounds by killing the enemy defenders. On Kafe, we saw a very high plant percentage from them though, so that trend not continuing as of yet. So maybe the Knights just electing to bring out aggression as opposed to attempting plants at this
10 seconds
stage.
left. 5 seconds left before insertion.
They definitely have every chance to just straight up outfrag Kanga if that's what they want to do.
Attacker's objective is to locate a bomb.
See how
and
it plays
defuse
out for them on Kafe, but on Clubhouse. But I like on Kafe that there were rounds where they had all the control they needed, and instead of overextending and trying to get more frags, which some teams will do, the Knights stayed nice and controlled, and they were getting their plants down. So there's definitely some discipline in them. It's not all just aggression. And it looks like they are pretty well set up for a solid clear here from the east. There's somebody just below those storage stairs for Leb. Or if he's aware, no. Arlo's in fact in stock, not ready for that engagement. But the Knights are pushing towards cash, and if they do get this control on the east side early, it's going to be very tough for Kanga holding Gym Bedroom.
Boats and Leb with a critical role in this round. If they get these picks, they can turn the tide. But if they lose control, the Knights will likely swamp site like they have in the last 2 rounds. Arlo in a very good position to cut off this rotate. Leb inside of lounge, freaking out. He's getting pinged. He will be taken down surely, but Arlo misses his shots there with the LMG. Leb gets away, but will eventually be taken down as he tries to make his way over towards bar. Arlo will take him off the board, and now it's a 5-on-4.
Yeah, poor Leb. I mean, he's not going to be able to wait for a reload with that LMG. So there's again, plus for running that. Knights establishing some good control. Looks like they have that cash. They're going to push straight through to construction, and they're very close to site now. Still half the round to play. It's going to be really tough for Kanga to hold them out.
Strider now rotating over towards the jacuzzi ball. The Knights may try and take their time and open it. It has been electrified by Campo using those batteries. They use an EMP, of course. Thatcher on the board as well as that lifeline concussion. Forcing Campo off, and the wall will be open. Very clean there from the Knights. Campo does make his way back in towards bathroom and will electrify that second wall though, so it's another obstacle that these attackers need to try and get through.
Awesome shots coming out from
What's he shooting at?
Strider just free firing. I don't think he really thought about where he was shooting at, but Arlo's pushed in. It's fragged out Campo. They know Spruce is really far off site. It's essentially a 5 versus 2 on site here. This is going to be pretty strong. Wayne Man not spotted though in that position.
Ooh.
Does actually get a double as Spruce gets 1, so all of a sudden guys, actually 2 versus 2. This could be back in Kanga's favor.
Somehow Hayward now left in a 1 versus 2. His team was looking so strong, but now he's on the back foot. 20 seconds left. The drop shot from Spruce is denied. And now it's a 1-on-1. Wayne Man trying to help his team win their very first round here on the second map.
10 seconds remaining.
Knights on a massive streak. Hayward, I think he might stick the plant. Surely not. It looks like he will. Wayne Man doesn't quite see him through that gym equipment, and now it's a post plant. I think Hayward might have dropped the hatch. He's playing it from below. This grenade comes out, does a little bit of damage. Wayne Man aware of his position, but there's not a whole lot he can do. He needs to likely drop and go for the kill. Hayward playing it patiently. He knows it takes 7 seconds to counter defuse, and he's just going to wait. Wayne Man trying to bait it out. Almost does, but Hayward with the discipline. Wayne Man now looking to try and stick it, and he will be taken down. A fantastic play there from Hayward to bring back around. That always should have been theirs. Kanga so close to edging that one out, but didn't quite have enough in the end.
Look, I'm amazed at how Kanga brought that back. It was really on the back of Wayne Man having some strong frags out of logistics. I can't believe it came back to a 2v2, and in fact, Kanga actually had the man advantage going into that plant. So yeah, a good clutch there from Hayward. Knights go up 3-0, and Kanga are on a massive round drought here in this series.
Man, oh man, Kanga. Yet to win a map here in Six Masters 2020, and it's looking like this one might not go their way either. It is their map pick. They're 3-0 down. And as you mentioned, on a big loss streak, if you take into consideration Kafe. So things starting to look a little bit grim now. Of course, there is an opportunity to bring it back, but 3 losses straight on the Clubhouse defense is always going to be super hard to recover from. Not only on the scoreboard, but just emotionally. It's going to be really difficult, I think, for these players to try and remain focused.
That's always hard as well as a team that is trying to build on something here. When you start bleeding around, you can really play a bit with your mindset. Trying to figure out what's going wrong. Your baseline's already difficult to pull together, and when you're not able to adapt or you're not winning these rounds, it can weigh a pretty solid amount on a team. So not sure how Kanga are going to be feeling at this stage, but of course there's going to be a lot of pressure there. The Knights have just been attacking so well, and even in that last round where Kanga would have felt it within their grasp, the Knights still managed to close it out.
Of course, it is a basement hold here. Or basement objective selection from Kanga. Maybe hold isn't the best term to use, as they're actually holding top floor currently. Going for the roam, the SSG roam, if that's how you know it as. They popularized it. Bringing that castle. Enabling these defenders to play from above. Coming up to the Knights to try and clear this nice and quickly. We've seen them do it so far in this map, but I don't think they've had as much competition offside as they have this round.
So far, this roam has not really been pushed. Arlo has just entered CCTV. Other than that, Campo's actually about to find himself in a gunfight if he's not too careful there in the bathroom. Dino, I think it is. No, Hayward actually hits some shots on the Campo as he drops back. Lucky to be alive, to be honest. It was a bit of a surprise gunfight for him. And that means that the Knights have got some pretty good control. They can get flanked back on here, though, by these top floor players. And Kanga looking to get very aggressive, in fact. They've retaken that floor. There's 4 of them on that stairwell, guys.
Definitely an interesting play, but Boats makes it work. That's Hayward taken down. No more sledge hammer to be utilized in this round. The rest of his team, though, look to try and reclaim this position. And it appears as if Kanga have fallen back down. They have. All 5 members now in sight on that bottom floor. So the Knights quickly now need to try and regain some momentum in this round, get that kitchen hatch open, and really try and force their way in towards sight.
That roam did kill some time. It's definitely going to help, but the utility lost. I mean, it's definitely going to affect them not having the sledge to open up kitchen floor or the hallway. But the most important part is they came away with all their hard breach, and they've still got this Thatcher as well. Utility. But yeah, the massive factor here is time. Coming down to the final 30 seconds, they're only just getting hatches open and really putting pressure onto sight. And so Kanga are going to be holding some pretty good crossfires.
Kanga being given a big opportunity here to get around. Arlo, though, he'll get aggressive inside of blue. That player has been concussed. Can he get the kill? No, he just whiffs, and Spruce will come out on top of that engagement. The Knights, meanwhile, have actually repositioned in towards dirt, and it's now left up to these 2 players to try and clutch it out. But unfortunately for them, it's barricaded. The Sound Cube will well and truly give away this push, and Kanga will get a round finally in this series. And it was flawless nonetheless, so great opportunity now for them to try and bring it back.
Yeah, way to do it in style. Get a flawless round. Kanga on a 7-8 round loss streak there, if you include the first map. They have broken it with that flawless round, so great job from them. And maybe that's all it took, you know, to go through all their sites, lose them all, and then replay them again.
That's the strat. Gym bedroom, though. We'll be heading back there. Kanga almost won it last time. Wayman and Spruce stepped up massively in that round. But unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough. Wayman unable to deny that plant, and a perfectly played post plant there by the Knights. It definitely, though, felt like a Knights round from the majority. So Kanga are really going to need to be careful of that early round pressure that the Knights are continually bringing. I think that's been one of their best traits tonight, especially on attack. They just absolutely bring it to Kanga, giving them no time to rest.
I mean, that previous round is the perfect example of what Kanga need to try and implement into all these defenses. As you just said, that early round has been so good for the Knights in these attacks. And what happened earlier in that last round, well, that SSG roam really burned a lot of time off of the Knights' attack. And they did actually lose that pick on Haywood. That means they were both at a man disadvantage and much lower time than they used to. Kanga need to try and bring that into these other defenses, and if they can, they really do seem like they've got a bigger chance to be more successful. If they bring this back to be 3-3, maybe they have a chance in their attacks. Calling it before seeing an attack comes out, but it's definitely getting them back in the match, that's for sure.
That would indeed be a big Kanga comeback. Still a long way away from seeing that come into fruition. And the Knights are now, again, trying to gain early territory. Getting quite aggressive over towards the cash wall. Even pressuring the south balcony already. That's Haywood on Sledge. So just trying to make Kanga feel a little bit uneasy. Still plenty of time in this round.
I really like what Haywood was doing with just opening logistics hatch, opening that connector window, and then dropping away. That's a lot of perceived pressure that the defense will worry about. They'll never be 100% certain without hard intel whether someone's holding those angles. It just makes it feel a little more sketchy to rotate back. Spruce gets tagged up on that rotate, in fact. Not sure exactly where he got shot from. Lucky to be alive, in fact. Just one bullet would have ended him. Again, this time management pretty good from Knights so far. They've now got CCTV, cache control. Go back and work on this Kennel's wall. It's looking very similar to how the last time this attack was playing out. Before Wayne Man had something to say about it.
Minute 20. All 10 members still alive in the server. Albeit some on lower health than others. Spruce one shot. The rest of his team though with full HP. Flank drones being set up now by the Knights, making sure that they don't have a repeat of the last round, at least not from Oil Pit. Expecting the Knights to try and get Jacuzzi wall open. It looks like Strider is alongside Juicy on that position. Arlo maybe coming to help out if needed, but instead he goes to the roof. And it looks like they've been stalled out pretty hard here by Campo.
Doing a good job so far, but Haywood is now on that gym window. To try and deny, but no, that castle barricade, in fact, is still up, so that's going to save Campo from direct danger at least. That wall is finally open, but again, very minimal time left for the Knights. They're going to have to squeeze through onto site. We're still 5 Kanga players up.
Arlo with the LMG will head the attack in towards Bathroom. Misses those initial shots though. Importantly though, he doesn't need to reload, but nonetheless, Boats' aggression will shut him down as the frags now come out. 15 seconds left on the board. Campo down, so it's a 3-on-3. Many of these defenders on low HP, but Wayman critically gets one. Spruce taken down as well. And now it's the plant scenario. Strider needs to stick it as unfortunately Juicy, his teammate, was dropped. It's effectively a 1-on-2 unless they go for the res. Strider doesn't seem to have a whole lot of intel to play off here. Head checking a lot of angles. We'll head check that one. That's left taken down. Campo not picked up, but it doesn't matter. Strider is shot in the back, and Wayman with the shotgun will finish him off. The scoreline now 3-2.
Defenders disabled the diffuser.
Another round in the bag for Kanga. And again, it was really good from them. Wayman just showing up on this side in particular. Good thing for Kanga because netting them rounds could have fallen apart. Strider looked pretty comfortable in that clutch. I think he probably had the right idea with logistics. They seemed like they knew that player was down in there, or at least that there was presence. If he was able to retake control of logistics, he would have had a really strong position for that post plant. Nice peek from Wayne Man though, and Kanga, this 3-3 is looking possible.
Indeed it is. CCTV and Cash will be their final defensive site of choice in the half. Keep in mind it might not be their last defensive round if we head to overtime. Not impossible. If we look at how this map has shaped up so far. First 3 rounds went to the Knights and the last 2 the Kanga. Definitely swinging the momentum back and forth. Kanga with a great opportunity, as you mentioned, to try and even out the half. Give themselves every fighting opportunity to win the map. And try and get their first points here in Six Masters 2020.
Previous time they tried to hold this site wasn't too great at all. In fact, the Knights really, just again with that time management, ran over the top of them. They got that CCTV wall really early and then rotated to construction. Got construction open, and at that stage, it gets really sketchy as a defender. And even though Kanga still had control of Catwalk at that time, the Knights just legged it into Cash, took that control, legged it through CCTV, killed the guy Catwalk, and then it was all over. So the Kanga just need to be ready for that early aggression. Try and, again, slow down this early progression from the Knights.
Dino, they're trying to set up that hole on the construction wall, but Kanga have read into that and actually electrified it. Dino was unaware and has wasted now once they held those pyro pallets. Arlo says GN to Leb. Yeah, not much to say about that one. Leb just getting a little bit too cheeky on that pick. His head will be taken down, and unfortunately for Kanga on this critical round, they'll start off on the man disadvantage.
Yeah, not a great start at all. Kicking into that LNG belt. Seemingly endless. And Lev is not a player that's had much of an impact in the series. He had a couple of good rounds on Kafe, but definitely in Clubhouse. Hasn't done anything too outstanding at this stage. And look at this push from the Knights here. Dino is just so freely taking construction. They've got a drone on site. He looks like, or they look like, they're really keen to pick that Kai. All they have to worry about is that top of cache stairs.
Trying to thermite the wall. Wayneman places that electro claw a little bit too late, and it is blown open. The Knights now able to shut down any sort of rotations in towards site with a minute 30 to go. They have the man advantage. Trying to close this one out. Juicy will make doubly sure that Lev is taken off the board. They try now to really again pressure Kanga on site.
Oh no, the double tap is an important role. Knights coming with this man advantage is going to be still tough for Kanga to hold on to. They look keen to take that Rafters control in Garage, but it's not necessary at this stage. If they can get that control of Cache like last time, all they have to worry about are Cache stairs to facilitate that. Strider looks pretty keen to peek it. They're very certain that there's at least one player there. It's going to come down to this engagement, that peek out almost going in favor of Knights, and again it will now. Strider picking up a nice frag, and the Knights are in a good position coming into this final 30 seconds.
Effectively a 2-on-5 as Wayneman has been taken down, a res unlikely at this stage in the round. Pressure coming from both sides. Spruce needs to try and hold the main stairs and the breach. Boats as well to assist, but it's not looking great as they'll push in from behind. Finish off Wayneman, finish off Spruce, and now Boats surely will be taken down as well. All the angles being held, and there we go. It's a flawless round for the Knights. And they get the edge in the first half.
Definitely not a great first half there from Kanga on their defense. That is really going to be playing in their minds going into the attack half. They did, in fact, fail to win any of on Kafe. So, there's a lot of pressure now on Clubhouse. It is their map pick, though, so they might have something in the bag here that the Knights just aren't ready for.
One thing that was interesting about that first half, from what I tracked, which I hope is correct, I hope I put it in right, there was only the 2 plants, one going in favor of the Knights and one in favor of Kanga. I think it was just the 2, right? Wayneman was involved in both, but didn't quite win
Need to
the first.
locate and defuse
So there's a little bit of a deviation from the first map where there was, how many plants was it? I think it was 4 in the end. So
Yeah, four on that first half.
half the amount of plants. I guess 2 is maybe a number we would come to expect. More so in the current meta, 4 maybe being a little bit of an outlier. But just thought it was something interesting to note for all the nerds out there.
Now, I think it just comes down to some differences on the maps as well. Clubhouse generally, when you're ready for a plant, it's some of the sites are a little smaller, so you generally end up just getting in frag fights
10
anyway.
seconds left.
One thing that's concerning me already is that the Knights look like they're going to play some kind of roam, and I think Kanga is going to struggle clearing that. They've
Attacker's objective is to
never
locate a
really
bomb
looked
and
super coordinated pushing out the roams for the majority of 6 Masters, in fact. I think this is the Knights really reading into Kanga's difficulties and trying to abuse that.
Interesting to see how quickly Kanga get meaningful control around the side or pressure the Knights. We saw Pittsburgh really excel in doing so. On the first map, Kanga struggled. Plenty of intel as well for the Knights, so this could be tricky.
Yeah, I've read it a little bit wrong. I think the Knights have actually defaulted back a little quicker than I expected. Arlo's really the only one that remained up to put a bit of pressure. It didn't look like he even really shot that drone that was hunting him. Double checking strip here just to make sure nobody's there. That means Kanga are actually going to have pretty quick map control. I think is maybe not so great from the Knights there. All they had to do was to stick around a little bit longer, shoot some drones, create a bit more uncertainty. And Kanga have just pushed up constantly. They're going to open up all of this floor through the sledgehammer of Leb. Knights is going to have to play nice and patient on site now.
Kanga getting those hatches open. That'll be bar blown. Going to create some angles over towards the church, or may even be able to nade that later in the round to clear any utility or players on the wall. As again, the Knights playing quite disciplined, trying to force Kanga into the first mistake.
Bomb located by attackers.
First mistake is a good point. It's a matter of who overpeaks, who's not in the right position. See who can force out that first pick. But so far, no real gunfights have occurred at all. A lot of pushing and opening things, and this is really good time management now from Kanga. The fact that they are here opening this wall, just so that electric claw gets thrown though, the EMP will counter it, which means the breach is open. There's some pretty good positioning and time here from Kanga, means that this round is looking pretty good for them. They just need to push out these positions in church. Blue is also going to be a very important part of how they take this.
A bomb has been located.
There is a ping inside. Wayman should be aware there's a player to his left. Leb always falling into his line of sight. Dino actually gets the first pick onto Campo. Hopefully that doesn't prove too precarious for Kanga, who need to push in. Leb will down one, finishes him up with the SMG, trying to hunt for maybe a second. But no, he'll be taken down. The aggression from the Knights is being tamed by Kanga as they bring it back to a 2 versus 2. It's now Boats left to try and enter, but the Knights will shut that down. They hold strong and win round number 7.
And that was just dirty gunfights going back and forth there. A lot of trades until it came to the 2v2. But yeah, the Knights came out too strong. I think it was a good attack from Kanga. What they really lacked though was just a little bit more control outside of that church area, because it meant that it came down to a really important entry or funnel through the church. And because they struggled to get those picks, the Knights were able to adapt, and then that flow on happened. I think if Kanga just had better control, especially of blue, for example, if they had blue control, that really could have been a different story. Now searching again for another round. They're down 5-2, so Clubhouse is starting to look quite grim here for Kanga.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
That last round was definitely scrappy. Finally get to use that word again, because that's exactly what it was. Trying to keep track of that was definitely interesting. Every half a second, someone being traded out. In the end, it's the Knights coming out on top. One more round and they'll be on match point. Could well see it the same scoreline as we did on Kafe, 7-2. The Knights can
10 seconds remaining.
keep up this momentum on the defense, then it's going to be very difficult to
5
recover.
seconds to go. Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb.
It
and
is, and I
defuse it.
think if the Knights stall out Kanga even a little bit, it's going to be really, really tough for them. That wall, I mean, they've put an electric claw and a mute jammer on it, but they're running Thatcher, so that's 2 pieces of utility that can be pretty easily cleared. Kanga are
Attackers recover
aware of it.
the
I mean,
bomb.
one thing about that electric claw as well is it's giving a notification to Kanga, hey, this wall is denied right now. So that EMP is going to come out. It really makes that mute jammer quite ineffective. So I think that's a bit of a waste there in terms of the Knight's utility. UC got tagged up in a gunfight. Didn't see exactly where that came from. I'm not sure if that was actually his teammate or maybe some pre-flyer.
Does look like GC has rotated back towards Jacuzzi while preparing for Kanga to rotate there after they open CCTV wall. Wayman does some provisional droning. Likely expect him to go on the roof and head to the other side of the map. Meanwhile, some of his team will push through. That's Lev on the sledge. C4 comes out, doesn't find its target. Hayward finds his though. Spruce trades it. 4-on-4.
Potatoing in that drone and bullets coming in everywhere. Dino under siege here.
Oh,
Oh, and he just gets absolutely shut down from the doorway, but Arlo refrags. Dino technically not actually fragged out at all, so I mean, Kanga might not know that they can secure this. This is essentially a 3 versus 3. That was intense, man. So many gunfights just coming out of nowhere in the space of 20 seconds to take this control, but they've got it now, so that's a plus side for Kanga.
Potentially a waste of an exothermic charge there. That player already down, meaning that they could have just funneled through the door, potentially. Maybe using it on Jacuzzi wall. I trust Kanga though. They know what they're doing. It is their map pick. But this entry could be quite challenging now. They basically forced to funnel through the windows and through con. It's going to be a tough entry.
Yeah, that's the downside, right? If they don't open Jacuzzi wall, well then that player around that bathroom corridor can play really comfortably. I didn't see if the Knights do have the rotate, but it's super common that you've got to rotate in through bathroom from that hallway. And I actually don't, so I mean that might work against them. But Strider here under a bit of pressure in the middle of sight. It's going to make it tougher for Kanga to funnel through as Arlo finds that first. Giving the Knights that man advantage coming into this final stage.
And then Wayman left to filter through con. Wayman actually finds a pick. Definitely winnable here with just over 20 seconds to go. Leb uses his hammer to make a rotate in towards Logi. None of the Knights players in here though. Could find an entry or a refrag, and it won't be either. Wayman was dropped, and unfortunately Leb not quite connecting enough shots, and time is well and truly against him. The diffuser has been dropped, and as he makes his way through con, it's looking like this round will not go his way, and there we go. The Knights will take the 8th round, and we're on match point.
Yeah, it was always going to be tough with the way that they had themselves set up for that push. Didn't really have other pressure, so it's similar to how their bottom floor push turned out, where they just didn't have pressure from multiple angles. They really only just had that push in through the door from construction. And I mean, you could say that they could have had window pressure, but that's not a great way to enter site. You're stuck in vault animations. It really helps the defense. So again, Kanga just not getting enough map control, but at least they're getting some and they're getting it swiftly. It's just not enough to enable or to force the Knights to be feeling some discomfort.
Dire hours now for Kanga. 1 round away from losing yet another map. Of course, they are yet to win a map at all in this entire tournament so far. So if there's any team that had a chance to try and get one back on, it was the Knights. Currently position 7th, only 1 position above them. Definitely disheartening for them if they are unable to bring this one back. And so far, Raven, it's looking like that may well be the way. 7-2 with the scoreline on the first map, and a strong possibility we could see the same here on map number 2.
Yeah, they are struggling yet again. I mean, their attacks don't look
10 seconds.
terrible, but there's definitely a lot missing with them. So I'm not so sure how this is really going to pan out, but I'm feeling 7-2 is quite plausible. Maybe they can get at least one other round, but either way, the Knights definitely are in huge control here. They got a 4-round buffer before at least overtime. So that's the thing. Kanga have to be 4 rounds perfect just to get it to overtime. And then they have to worry about winning another 2 rounds on top of that. Essentially, 6 round wins is what Kanga needs to be able to bring this map back. And that's a huge task considering they've only won 4 the entire series.
The odds are against them. But nothing in Siege is impossible. We've seen bigger comebacks before. In fact, Spruce, one of the members that was playing for Fury back in, I believe it was Season 10, had a massive disadvantage against Fnatic, one of the biggest teams to ever play in the region. Brought back a big deficit against them. Well, a little bit of a different story, different team, different map. But I'm sure if there's one person in this server that can bring some experience and some I can't believe I'm saying this for Spruce, but some, mature mindset. It's probably him to try and bring back a comeback.
Yeah, I think some of the viewers might have a different opinion of that once they see the interview. But let's see how we go. Another day, it's a new day. Might be different. Arlo doing a good job with this damage trick so far. I mean, this wall has really struggled to be opened. And that's a big issue. If you can't get CCTV walls open, well, then this attack is super difficult. And speaking of difficult, this is going to be really tough now for the Pulse to win this gunfight. He's been tagged, but he actually gets it. Oh, that's Spruce off the board. That's not great for Kanga. Strider. Oh.
Well, look, I said Spruce might have the right mindset. I didn't say he'd have the aim, and unfortunately, the Knights now the massive advantage for this round, and Wayne Man loses his gunfight as well, so it's a 4-on-1. Leb, with all the weight left on his shoulders, if they lose this round, if he dies, it'll be 2 maps in favor of the Knights, and as he makes his way through lounge in towards Garage, it's looking like surely that will be the case. His position is revealed, and he will be taken down. The Knights with another 7-2 victory this evening, Raven. And Kanga, unfortunately, just not bringing enough to the table. They'll go home empty-handed.
Yeah, pretty grim series for them overall. 7-2, 7-2 is what both map scores were. And as you were saying, guys, this really would have been their best opportunity to try and get something on the board here for 6 Masters, but they just really struggled. The Knights brought out their A game and they played some pretty good R6, and they're going to be putting 2 maps onto their standings, and that's going to help them jump up a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice comeback for the Knights. I think coming out of last week, they were pretty distraught with the way they played and the performance that resulted, but can't really complain too much about 2 7-2s, I don't think. Yes, it's against the bottom team, but this is Siege we're talking about. This is not an easy game. You can't just walk into these easier games in quotation marks and expect free dubs. It seems like Knights have put in the work. They executed their game plan, and Kanga just... I don't know. I don't know how to describe what's going wrong, because they have talent on that team, but it just doesn't seem like it's clicking. These roster changes that happened a while ago still seem to be having a flow-on effect to this team in the current state.
Yeah, I think in terms of their roster right now, it's just a matter of time. And for some teams, you can make a dramatic roster change and it clicks within weeks. And for some teams, it's about grinding in for maybe a matter of months. And Kanga just haven't had that level of time to be able to grind this in. And on top of that, I think it's just back to this map pool issue. I mean, Kafe is one of the maps that they've played a lot of. We saw that. They lost that 7-2. And that wasn't their pick. Clubhouse is, in fact, their pick. And they still lost that one 7-2. So they just don't have any depth in maps that are able to help them at least get, 1 map each week. It's just looking a bit grim.
Yeah, and I mean, that second map, as you mentioned, being their map pick, you would have expected at least for the scoreline to be a little bit closer. Do you think that maybe that was a result of such a massive round streak over the night? Because we saw the last 5 rounds on Kafe go in favor of the Knights, then the first 3 rounds on the second map, so that's 8 rounds straight. It gets to a point where, despite how strong your mental fortitude is, surely there's some heads dropping. By that stage, it's looking pretty grim. Like, it's easy to sit here and say, oh yeah, just refresh for the new round, but I feel like it gets to a point where it's going to take a toll, surely.
Yeah, it never feels good. And I mean, like, you can have a strong mindset, but it's still going to be feeling not great. Yeah, so I feel bad for Kanga. I think they really just need to be able to get through 6 Masters. They just need to keep working at it. And if they get a chance at a bit of a break at some stage soon, then maybe that's when they can start to look at really knuckling down and ironing out some of these issues.
Well, it's time for the Spruce interview. Let's bring it up.
How are we, boys?
How are you, Spruce? Look, I'm not going to be the mean caster that asks, oh, how are you after, 2 map losses?
Yeah, it's
How was your day?
pretty
How was
obvious.
your day today, Spruce? How was your day? Did you do anything exciting?
I went to the beach, saw some dolphins. It was pretty cold. Apart from that, not much really. Pretty depressing.
Nice.
Look, I don't know what to ask, to be honest, but I'm going to ask you about your map pick. I've talked a lot about your map pool. I talked about it last week as well. You guys chose Clubhouse this week. Maybe talk us through the decision to choose Clubhouse and what might have gone wrong.
Well, we were originally going to pick Cafe, so they kind of made the job easy for us. So then we were like, yeah, sure, we've voted them on Clubhouse a bit, you know. I mean, we're pretty bad, but we can counter-strat them. Clearly not. We got bent over and spanked, so sometimes you get a good one, eh, boys?
And I don't know if you can give us any more insight into the struggles. I mean, we talked about it a lot, but is there something in particular that you guys are just really unable
It's
to
just game
handle
day.
at the moment?
It's just game day. I don't know what happens. Everyone seems to drop their DAX and poo themselves. I don't know what the deal is, though. Definitely just game day. Game day nerves. I don't know what else to explain it.
Well, next week you guys will be taking a wild card, currently number 1 in the standings.
Yeah.
How are you guys feeling
looking
going into
forward to
that one? Is that looking like a dub or?
Oh, mate, easy dubs. Left, right, center, mate. Fuck, 2 dubs, mate. Easy. Put it down right now, everyone. All your casters, 2-0 to Kanga. Safest bet of your life, mate.
We'll leave it at that, mate. We appreciate your time. We'll see you next week after your dubs.
Yep. I'll see you then.
Oh, man. Wow. I don't think I've ever seen Spruce so down in an interview. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, well, at least he was a bit better behaved.
It's tough. I don't envy him having to talk about it week to week because it does come back just the same thing. Like he said, game day nerves. I don't know, he said that before. And there's probably not much they can say because I think that's just something that will be continuous until they can get on top of where they're at. Because a lot of game day nerves comes down from the fact that maybe you're not confident in your team's ability or your own ability because of just how shaky things are. So it's just about Kanga just having that time to work through it. And once they can get to a position where they feel comfortable in what they're doing as a team and individual, well, that kind of stuff will start to slip away. But yeah, it's just going to be a bit of a rough 6 Masters for them, I've got to say.
I think it'll be interesting to see if and when they do win a map, if that's going to have a big roll-on effect, if they sort of nerves will start to sort of go away. Because I think once they get over that small hump, hopefully for them, that'll mark the point where those nerves can be eliminated and they sort of have the faith in their own abilities to actually get genuine map wins on the board.
Yeah, it is definitely like a monkey off the back feeling. If you are struggling to win a map, once you finally do, it feels really good. And it does help start to string things together, and then you can work on some consistency. So it is just a matter of time until they do finally get that opportunity. But until then, it's just going to be all about that hard work.
Well, talking about feeling really good, I'm pretty sure Strider from Pittsburgh will be pretty happy. Let's have a word.
Hey, boys.
G'day,
Hey, mate.
Strider. Congrats on the 2 maps tonight. Definitely a turnaround from last week. How you guys feeling after that one?
Well, it feels good to win a game on Clubhouse and, put some points on the board consecutively. So I'm really, really proud of everyone.
Yeah, you guys decided to pick Kafe, which is obviously a map that you've seen Kanga play a lot of. Maybe talk us through your decision to take them to Kafe.
Well, we feel like we're quite strong on Kafe, but we also didn't feel like they would expect us to take them to the map. Actually, when we were picking maps, when we chose Kafe, it was only until later we realized that they actually played it last week. So I don't know, not really quite sure what happened there. But I mean, we were pretty confident going into it that they weren't going to expect how we're going to be playing on Kafe, regardless of if they played it last week. So we were still happy.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to steal Guz's question here, but you've got LFO next week, which I think is probably a curious preparation thing for a lot of teams, given how they've been playing. Any initial thoughts for how you feel going into that matchup next week?
Yeah, well, I feel like their kind of play style was how our team used to play at some stage. So if we bring at them with a similar kind of aggression, we feel like we will be on top in that. Like we know how to use claymores, we know how to use nomad, but more importantly, we know how to use our gun. So we're not really threatened by them at all.
Awesome. Well, Strider, we'll leave things there. Congrats again on tonight, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys. I'll catch you later.
Oh, the shots are being called. LFO, watch your back.
Yeah, they're super confident going into that game. And I mean, after tonight, of course, that confidence should be there. They've had some good matches as well previously. I mean, they did lose to Sinistar, but it was 7-8 on Clubhouse. So I think that's heavily what Strider was talking about with getting the Clubhouse win. Previously, they lost it also 3-7 to Ferox. But yeah, the Knights should feel pretty good after tonight. It's not just the fact that they beat the bottom team Kanga at the moment, but strong map results, both 7-2. It really counts for something.
Well, Pittsburgh Knights have taken the first best of 2-2-0 comeback for the other series in a very short period of time. I've lost my words. We'll see you soon.
Attackers dropped the diffuser. Attackers located the bomb.
Please hold. Your call is very important to us. All operators are busy at this time.